Next motion of the evening is by Council Belanger. Request City Council include an assessment of the cost of a new high school to be built at another location. Second by Council Leahy. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As this council, I'm sure, is well aware of, and the folks at home, that, you know, this is one of the biggest projects that this city is going to face in the next 5-10 years is our new high school. No two ways about it. So I was just very curious regarding cost assessments and what we're looking at here. We've had meetings with the school committee and this council. Administration officials were here. We met with the MSBA with acting Manager-elect Murphy and the delegation. It was a very productive meeting. But I just wanted to assure that, you know, that we're looking at all avenues as we enter this. It's very, very early in the stages. But I do have a cost analysis here, and I should say I had it the whole time in the report. My mistake. And what's very interesting here is that, you know, a cost of a new high school at its current location is in the neighborhood of about $245 million. A cost of a new high school at an alternative other location, such as South Common, for instance, is about $290 million. So they're not all that far apart. So I just want to make sure as we move forward that the dialogue continues, that all the stakeholders have input in this decision. That it's probably the biggest one this council may have to make if, again, we're approved by the MSBA in the next year or 9 months. So, so as we move forward, I just want to make sure that all the stakeholders are involved in this discussion, in this process. It's a very big decision, and I can't stress enough. But again, I just want to make sure everybody's involved, and it's probably best we, Mr. Mayor, that we refer this, if no problem, my colleagues to the ad hoc committee, subcommittee, for further discussion, so the dialogue keeps going. And we're very, very early. We have to get the application in by this Friday, and we've decided that the high school is the priority project, and that's great. I think we almost all agree on that. So that's great to have that togetherness on that moving forward. But nonetheless, we've got a long way to go. It's whatever we decide is not written in stone, because the MSBA ultimately, if we are granted, makes the ultimate decision. So we're a long ways away here, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to ensure the dialogue and everyone has a say in this matter as we move forward. So I look forward to hear comments from my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Motion by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Leahy, to refer this item to the ad hoc subcommittee on high school facility and school assessment. Well, Councilman Milanazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I don't believe I will be supporting the motion due to the fact that I think that even though Council Belanger is well-intentioned, I think everything that he's talking about is actually happening as we speak. We did get cost assessments on the other two locations that were mentioned, Colley Stadium as well as South Common. We did an outreach back in 2010 to the stakeholders, if you will. I was able to get minutes of those meetings and sign-up sheets where we had close to 100 people who weighed in, and to a person it was overwhelmingly voted to keep the high school in the downtown. When you all went to the MSBA, and I know Council Belanger went as well, it was my understanding, I was not there, but that the people you met with were impressed with the fact that the city had hired OMR to actually do the feasibility study. They came back with the various planning options, and as Council Belanger indicated, if we're fortunate enough to be shortlisted, when MSBA does come back in here, they're actually going to do their own assessment, and it could be the high school location, the current location, or it could be somewhere else. I am just fearful that if this council goes on record to even refer this to the ad hoc committee, we might not be putting forward a unified voice. And I believe that by vote of this council, which was unanimous to support the project, by the school committee, also unanimous, and a 7-0 vote to support the high school as a priority. Again, it is going to take a long time to do. And again, I truly believe that Council Belanger is well-intentioned, but again, I'm just afraid that if we're asking for additional assessments to be done, we may actually delay the process. So, again, I'm going to vote against the motion if it's a roll call vote, and I'd like to be recorded in opposition if it's a voice vote. But again, just based upon the fact that the work has been done, the downtown meetings were held, neighborhood meetings were held, and we just need to continue to move forward. Thank you.
Councilor Smaras?
Thank you. I understand Councilor Belanger's request, but as Councilor Melanazzo has stated, there's a process already in place that's being led by the school committee. And the one thing I do know about this process, it allows for plenty of input as the process goes on. I mean, the MSBA will make a decision as to whether we can build it or not. Once that decision's made, it's going to give us ample time to make other decisions. But I mean, at this point, I do know when these situations come up, they're rather fragile, and certain things can happen where the MSBA could say, well, what's going on low? Do you really want it? And do you want to study it further, or what have you? So I would rather, go at the pace that we're going. It's been established, but also it'll give us time to have input as needed. I mean, we also have, like, my subcommittee on education. I mean, there's some plans, to meet with students. We want to include student input in all of this. And historically, just to let you know, when this plan first came out, I was against Jeff Speck's request to move the school, to keep the school in the downtown. I was looking myself to move it outside towards College Stadium where the fields were. And that was my decision as headmaster at that particular time. But as I'm looking at what's going on right now with this expansive University of Lowell and Middlesex Community College, having the high school in the downtown makes a lot of sense because it creates opportunities for our students. So there's a lot at stake. And then I know that Mr. Belanger is also concerned about the business people having issues with students in the downtown. But quite often I was called to meet with various committee groups of the downtown when there were issues. And when those issues were discussed, those issues were solved. So there's a lot out there. There's a lot of other things that we can do. And I understand where Councilor Belanger is, but I think if we do anything else that could derail the process, I'd like to see the process continue, and the process will allow us ample time and ample opportunity to talk about changes, talk about locations, talk about the fact that are we going to build it or not, or where, what other things should be done. I think we have the opportunity, but this is an opportunity that I would not want to lose for our students in Lowell. So I'm cautious about this.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on the motion as amended, Council Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think any position on where the high school is as of right now, is way down the line. I don't think whatever decision or vote made here tonight has any effect on the MSBA, whether it's holding things up or not. As far as things go, it's been voted on by both the council and the school committee that on Friday it'll be put in. So, respectfully, gathering information and seeing what's best for the city is not a problem. And I'll support the Councilor Belanger's motion. Referring it to the ad hoc is a committee, as everybody knows, of city councilors and school committee members. Once the MSBA does grant, the initiative, then at that point in time, they'll be coming to the city and talking to city officials of where or what's best for the city at that point in time. So, any talk of keeping it where it is now or moving it, we're not there yet. So, there's no reason not to keep gathering of information to make the best decision for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Rourke. Council Leahy?
Thank you. I just have one question also that, once this comes to us, I don't think we have any real say on what the MSBA says or what the school department says. Don't we basically just fund these projects and leave it up to the school committee to decide how to spend the money? Would that be accurate? We could weigh in, but I think it's their decision as a body to assess their needs and then come to us for the funding.
If there's no objection. The assessment report that was completed by a consultant hired by the school department provides an assessment, not just of the high school, but the entire school district's needs. So that has been submitted to MSBA. The rules for MSBA say, submit your projects. We will evaluate them, but in the meantime, you have to pick one of those projects as the priority. So, that process is going to continue now that we have submitted the priority. It is in the hands of MSBA, and they made it abundantly clear that they make the decision, and it's based upon a number of factors. They have a budget of $500 million annually. They've received hundreds of requests from other communities. They look at those requests, they look at the priorities and the needs in those communities, and they make that decision. So they will be coming out to the city and conducting, as they have stated, a feasibility study, not just on the high school, but the other 4 projects that we submitted as a statement of interest, those middle schools. So it's really, quite frankly, it's in the hands of the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority. So I believe the ad hoc subcommittee, and they did indicate it'll be a 6 to 9 month process before they make their decision. They will look to have meetings and walkthroughs with city officials, and the ad hoc subcommittee, I think that's why it was set up, to facilitate meetings on what they find. There might be a request for additional information based upon their walkthroughs. So, that is the process, and as we heard from Mr. Lang and the superintendent of the schools, it's about a 6 to 9 month process before they make that decision on whether, and they could make a decision on some of the other statement of interest in those other schools that we submitted as well, the other 4. So it is a long process. We are far from completing it. There will be a lot more information gathering between now and the time they make that decision. But once they they begin and conduct their feasibility study, they will make the final decision on where it is and the extent of what they're willing to fund. So I hope that answers questions. But we have initiated the process, but there's a lot. It's a long journey. Councilman Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with everything that you just said, but again, I just want to reiterate my position is that I don't want to be sending publicly the wrong message to the MSBA that we're not quite sure what we want to do. I think the vote that we took, the vote that the school committee took, the fact that we had these charrettes a few years ago, the fact that in talking to Headmaster Martin, over 50% of the students at Lowell High School walk to school because they live in the fringe of the downtown, be it Lower Centerville, the Acre, Lower Highlands, Lower Belvedere. So again, that will certainly enter into the discussions with the MSBA if we're fortunate enough to be selected and they'll come here. But again, I just want to speak with a unified voice on this issue, so that's why I'm going to vote against the motion. Thank you.
So the motion as amended is to refer the assessment report to the ad hoc subcommittee on high school and other facility. Correct?
That's correct.
Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Motion on the amendment to refer. Roll call.
Council Leahy?
Yes.
Council Martin?
No.
Council Mercia?
Yes.
Council Milanazzo?
No.
Council Rourke?
Yes.
Council Samaras?
No.
Council Belanger?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Council Kennedy?
5 yeas, 3 nays. Motion carries.